Hey, I'm Susanna Lanier, actor and acting coach for over 25 years.
I'm Jess Greenberg, casting director for over 10 years.
We're here to help you navigate this crazy, creative, and sometimes chaotic journey into the film and television world.
We share our insights as to what works.
And invite some pretty spectacular guests to share more ideas to move you on your journey.
So without further ado, let's get into the show.
Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with Rosina Bucci from Elite Casting. She has been one of the top casting directors in our country for over 25 years, and we're lucky enough to have her here today. Welcome, Rosina. Yay!
Yay! Yay! So happy to be here. Hi,
We're happy
Susanna.
you're
Hi,
here.
Jessica.
Hello. Thank you so much for being here. Generally, how we like to start is a bit of your background and origin story, and specifically how you got into casting.
How much time do you have? So, my origin story. I was always attracted to the world of entertainment, and even as a young child, putting on shows and that sort of thing. But at one point, I wanted to take some acting classes, and I signed up at the then Actor Studio in Montreal, which was run by Rick Perry. And I met Nadia and Vera, Nadia Arona, Vera Miller, who were also taking workshops there. And one thing and another, and we participated in plays and, tried our hand at acting. And from there, we decided to start a dinner theater, and which we did. And we started a professional dinner theater that ran for over 3 years at the then Hyatt Regency Hotel. And casting just kind of evolved from that. Because we were casting for our plays, and we were in touch with actors, and we had we were in the acting field, so to speak, although we didn't act for very long. It kind of just evolved from that. It wasn't something we had sat down and thought, oh, this is what we want to do. And frankly, that wasn't even a profession here in Montreal. So at the time we started, and the reason people came to us was because there was nobody to go to. Wow. So there may have been, I think, one casting director on the French side, but on the English side, there just weren't. And there were no agents. So it was like, brand new. The industry, the film and television industry in English here in Montreal were new. And so it just happened at the right time. And that's how we got into it. And the rest, as they say, is history.
Amazing.
Cool. And you did spend time in Toronto, working in Toronto as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so that was a decision that you made as a business to have feet on the ground there? Yes.
So when we're casting English projects, you have to find your actors wherever they are. So it could be throughout Canada, and it could be in the States as well. Okay. Now we and I basically do Canadian casting. So my mandate is to cast the Canadian talent, and depending on what the project is, if it's a high profile American project that shoots in Montreal, then it already comes with their stars attached. And then the casting would be local, and it would be whatever supporting roles or small parts they're looking for locally. But by the same token, you do have to be aware as a casting director of like who's out there, and not just in Montreal. You have to be aware of what the Canadian casting pool is. Mm-hmm. And so we did that. And at one point also, it was almost a bit of a fluke too, where a very good friend of mine, producer, moved to Toronto and started to do a lot of projects. And she asked me if I was interested in doing a project in Toronto. And I thought about it and said, okay, let's give it a try. And I ended up, I never moved to Toronto, but I would commute back and forth, but work exclusively in Toronto while Nadia and Vera worked in Montreal. And so I cast many projects, series. There was Catwalk, there was The Hidden Room, there was A Hitchhiker, there was John Woo's Once a Thief. These were series, and so I had to cast every week, and I would have to find from the guest roles right down to the tiniest parts, the whole thing, and then all over again the following week. So yeah. But and then at one point I just decided I just wanted to come back and stay in Montreal. So yeah.
Cool. That's amazing. And you did it alone, like you didn't have an assistant or anything, or you
well
did?
Yes, I had an assistant for each project. I had to hire an assistant to help me, and we have to hold our casting sessions. You have your camera and you have your reader, and then of course it was a little bit it's a lot simpler now in many ways, with the technology that we have to get things done. So but it was a wonderful experience, and of course you establish great working rapport with the agents and producers. And then at some point today, with the tools that we have and the technology that we have, it's almost irrelevant where you're located.
Right.
You could be located anywhere and still be able to do it because of the internet and the computers. The only thing that would be a little bit difficult is if I were casting a series that was not based locally. When you're getting down to the nitty-gritty, smaller parts, and that you really do want to be in the community and get to know people by going out to plays and going out to workshops and sort of that kind of research. You get a better handle on the newcomers and the people who are capable of doing getting their feet wet by doing a one-liner or something. That's where I find it serves me better to be in the city. But when I'm casting, if I'm casting the leads, or if I'm casting the supporting roles or the recurring roles in a series, for example, it doesn't matter where I'm sitting, because especially today with self-tapes, and you can communicate through Zoom, through self-tapes. It's like being there.
Like, what do you miss about the audition room and like that whole process?
Who says I miss it?
Or maybe you don't. Exactly. Maybe you don't.
No, yeah. There are the pros and the cons, and there are the things that you enjoy about one way of doing things. So when it's an in-room audition, there's a personal connection with the actor. You actually, you're seeing them, you talk to them, you have a little chit chat, you can interact and give a note right on the spot. So that human contact is it's lovely, and I think we all miss that. On the other hand, when we're casting through self-tapes, what I like about that is that first of all, you don't have to set up the session. People send you in their self-tapes. The actors can do it whatever time of day is convenient for them. And I can view them at any time of day that's convenient for me. So that's a plus. And what it does for me is that I can see more people than I normally would if I had to do in-person sessions from scratch for everything. So an in-person session, if you do a day of casting, even smaller parts, the maximum you can see, or maybe 30 people, and that's a really full day of casting. Whereas if I'm requesting self-tapes, you know, I'm happy to see people that I might not have had time to fit in. So if your schedule only allows you to see 6 people for a role, you have to carefully choose who those 6 people are, and you have to balance it with being safe, because you know you do want to find the person, and taking chances. But if you're not limited to 6 people or 8 people, if I could see 15 people, then I can see my safe choices, and then I can go crazy and say, well, okay, this person has theater training from Dawson, but has done nothing yet on film and television. Let's see, you know, let's see if that person can, if they're comfortable enough with doing a film audition, or somebody who has, you know, no experience at all, maybe has just taken some random courses, or somebody who's done different types of, you know, has been typecast a certain way, and I would say, you know, they don't just pop to mind when I think of comedy. You know, this person doesn't just pop to mind. Or if I'm thinking of, this person is comedic, so I don't think of this person for a dramatic role. But why not? Let's see. And so many wonderful surprises come up. So I really appreciate having, let's call it the luxury of being able to see as many people as I want to see.
Yeah.
We find the same as actors with the self-tape. Part of it, it's like a love-hate. We miss the direction that we get from casting, get that connection with somebody. But for a lot, especially like my students who also need to have jobs to pay their bills, you know, and so they don't have to choose a job that has to work around making their days available so they can run to an audition. Having that freedom of having their own time to work their self-tapes is wonderful. But that's exactly the same problem is now, which I said you used to go for, you know, 5, maybe 10 persons for a role. Now it can be 20 plus. Like it just, it changes the dynamic too. So there's a lot of like wonderful things about it in terms of that freedom, but it also becomes, I don't want to say, I don't like saying competition, but there's there's the numbers are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So,
and that's a good thing. And I'll tell you why.
Why?
Oh, I'll tell you why. Because, you know, going back to when I was doing a lot of work in Toronto, in Montreal, it's a much smaller pool in English. Okay, it's a smaller pool. And if you're an actor living in Montreal, and if you're, you know, reputable and you've done good work, your odds of being seen are huge.
Yeah,
they're huge. If you're in Toronto, your odds of being seen are not so huge, because it's a much bigger pool.
Yeah.
And again, especially in-person auditions, you know, you have to limit. And of course, people want to see the people who are known. And it's like, why am I not seeing, you know, so-and-so who's a lead in that series? Why am I not seeing them? You know, you're going to see them for sure. And once you've seen all the tried and true and usual suspects, it doesn't leave much room for the untried and true suspects. Okay. So, and I have seen this with actors who in Montreal are getting seen for everything, and then move to Toronto and sit there
Right.
and don't get seen. And when they do get seen, it's like, oh my gosh, the people that they're seeing opposite or who are seen for the same roles, it's like they really need to up their ante because the competition is that much more.
More.
And transport that to LA. Okay. So, and there are stories of actors that were doing leads in Toronto, lead roles in Canadian television and in Canadian independent films, and going to LA and sitting at home with no auditions for the longest time. Okay. So I think there's a certain complacency when there's no competition. And I see that without mentioning names or anything, but I'll see where when people come in knowing that there's competition and they know they have to put their best foot forward and be at the top of their game, because there's no second chance, because people can move on to other choices. They have to bring up their ante. And sometimes I've seen that where, because there isn't the competition, it's like actors will come in and not know their lines, or the sort of thing that you would, as a casting director, any book on how to audition would like frown upon and tell you absolutely out of the question. The casting room is not the place to be running lines, to be rehearsing with the reader, which we get. Somebody will walk in and say, can I run this through with the reader a couple of times? It's like, be my guest, but you should have been doing this before coming into the audition room. Okay. And so the tougher the competition is, the less of that, the preparation has to be top notch. And people have to be prepared and take the audition, not like, could I have afternoon? Monday morning isn't so great for me because, and as casting people, I mean, I know my job is I need to find the right person for those roles. Okay. So I will be as accommodating as humanly possible to because if you really cannot make it that morning, I'm not going to say, well, you can't make it that morning, so goodbye. No, I mean, I want to see you because you're good, so I will accommodate you to the best of my capability. But if it's just a whim, and when you start to get to know which people tend to have these little whims, it's not to the actor's best interest to do that. And so we see that sometimes where it's like, I can't come in, I don't feel like coming in, I didn't have time to learn my lines, can I run the lines with this one, could I read for a different role, like all kinds of stuff. And it's not advantageous. And so now with self-tapes, here's the other thing too. There's maybe a misconception from actors as to what getting direction is all about. Okay. Getting direction means you come in, you've made choices. You've done the work and you present me something. Boom. Okay. Based on that, I or whoever can give you a direction to say, let's try this, this flavor or that flavor. Direction doesn't mean telling you how to do it. So I find that there is that misconception of like, I come in, I've learned my lines, but tell me what you want and I'll do it for you. No, you show me what you've prepared. You've done your work. You have to make those choices. That's your job as an actor. Okay. Because anybody can read lines. I don't need an actor to read the lines. I can, read them myself, or you can get, the robot, the computer, whatever, you can put your script in there and it'll read it to you. So I don't need to hear the words. I
Yeah.
need to see a performance. I need to see choices. I need to see that character come to life. And sometimes what happens, especially when it's it's original material, it's not, when we get scripts, they haven't been produced before, so it's new material. And I'll see maybe, I don't know, 5, 6 actors doing that role, and it's boring, it's not working, I can't really know, is it the writing maybe? You wonder, is it the writing? I mean, if you're doing a play that's a classic play, it's not the writing.
Right.
So you work until you get somebody who gives it life. But when it's original material, it could be the writing, it could be this, it could be that. And then out of the blue, somebody else will come in, and it's like, are they reading the same sides?
They
and
made it
I have to
work.
look and say, oh my goodness, I never heard those lines before, and they're there. It's the same text, okay? And suddenly somebody will make me pay attention. Like, it's interesting.
Yeah.
There's something interesting there. I hear the words, I hear things that I didn't hear for 6 auditions. It was like just, So,
Yeah.
Therefore, self-tapes and getting direction in the room, the only time is if you've totally misread or misunderstood what the tone of the show or the project is. Then you could like start off on the wrong foot, and then it would be helpful if somebody says, oh no, it's not physical comedy shtick, it's this or it's that. Okay, but that doesn't happen often. So even if if you've done a good audition and you've grabbed my attention, you've done your job, and that is your job.
Right.
Then I or the director will say, yeah, I know we want, the ending, they should be lighter, or at the end, they shouldn't be smiling, they're depressed or whatever, saying, we'll adjust, we'll bring them in, do a recall and give them the adjustments. They're adjustments, basically. Adjustments to something that's there and good to start with.
Yeah,
Right.
so true. And it's interesting, like from your point of view, is like for us, like we want to see more people, and it is good because it creates more competition. But I think that the actors now have this like defeatist attitude of like, well, they're not going to watch it anyway. Like they think we don't watch it. And so they're just like, yeah, it's going into the void. And I think so they don't attack their self-tapes. I don't think they feel the competition, or they don't think that they're being seen. It's like, yeah, they're just doing it like as a nicety or as a checkbox, like, here you go. And it's like, it's so not that. It's like, no, this is a great opportunity to be seen. And like you said, to take a chance on someone who you may not have had the opportunity to bring in person, but it's like, here's a great audition. And, like we've also spoken before, like it's part of your craft, and have fun with it. And that is the work as an actor. That is the work. So, yeah.
Every audition is an opportunity. Every audition. And if you're giving it your best work all the time, and defeatist attitude, I'll go off on a tangent here, but like the actor, your face, okay, is like the window to what's going on inside. And whatever is going on inside, we will see. And if inside you're thinking, I'm never going to get this, I'm terrible, it'll come, it'll be on your face. Okay.
Yeah.
And it will be on your face. And even anything to do with the character, like if you're preparing for an audition, if you haven't specifically figured out what it is that your character is doing, your face is going to show, I don't know what I'm doing. It's like your face just reflects. So each audition has to be, I am this character, period. I don't care what's on the page. Like if it says, tall, redheaded, overweight, and you're, short and dark haired and weigh 45 pounds. Like, no, I'm that character. So don't be distracted by that sort of thing, first of all. But every audition is an opportunity, because if you do a good job, you don't get that, but you will have made an impression, and you never know where or how it's going to pay off. Like you can't know how it pays off, but it does pay off, because you'll be on the radar, and you'll get a call for something else, but you won't know that it was fueled by an audition that you maybe did 9 months ago, that you didn't get, and you never even got feedback on.
Yeah.
So, and also it's funny, but if an actress says, well, I'm sending a self-tape and I don't know if I get seen or not. Well, first of all, I think, speaking for myself, but most casting directors, they have better things to do with their times than to randomly request self-tapes and have no intention of watching them. So,
right.
We do watch them. But that being said, if you're in person and doing a dull, uninspired, unprepared audition, somebody might be there with eyeballs looking at you, but are they really, maybe they're making their grocery list because you've just lost them, because you haven't brought something to keep their interest. So
true.
It's your job as an actor. It's an actor's job to be a character, to create that character and be that character, and demand our interest and our attention. Absolutely, you demand it.
So Rosina, you've touched on a little bit in our conversation, but there is something with my students often, and it is this a little bit of a defeatist attitude. Things are going to Toronto, and we have complained as a Montreal industry. People have said, like, why aren't ACTRA doing more work for us to make sure Montrealers get booked? And I have said, ACTRA is national. They're not going to protect us. There's some sometimes Quebec tax credits, but if the producer is willing to waive the credit because they like the self-tape from Toronto, too bad. What do you want them to do? They can't force their hand. You hire this bad actor, and I don't think we're bad. I think we're amazing. But so that is, I wanted to know your opinion of the Montreal versus Toronto. And again, I shouldn't say versus, but watching self-tapes. What are your thoughts on that? I can see your face. This is a podcast. They won't see it. You're like, oh boy.
No, because I hear that, and again, I think, if not just actors, just people in general, but actors in this case, focus on what it is that what their aims are, and focus on that, and forget all the distractions. That's step one. Okay.
Yeah.
So, this is with everything, there's always going to be somebody who's going to be, when I say better, more successful, or have more money, or have a nicer house, or, get things that somehow you're not getting. There's always going to be somebody who's doing better than you. So instead of worrying about that, worry about, being the best that you can be. Also, I question sometimes, what is it that you want? Like as an actor, like what is your ambition, or what is your goal? What are your goals? And because we get approached from people who want advice, and who want, and it's like, I want to get into acting, or I want to get into this, and you want to know what it is that you want really. And some people don't really want to be actors.
Right.
They want to be celebrities. Okay. That's very different. So if you want to be an actor, then your focus is on acting, and on honing your craft, and being the best that you can be, and making, do you want to make a living from your profession of being an actor? And if the answer is yes, there are many actors in Montreal who are making a living, and they don't have, other jobs other than something that's related to their acting. And that might be, that they'll do voice work as well, or they'll be working in the industry doing, using their skills. Now, Toronto is a bigger market. It's just a bigger market. So if I come to your class, Susanna, and see your students in Toronto, I could go to, like, I don't know, 30, 40
Acting
classes.
Yeah, absolutely.
With the same number of students as you have. And, out of 40, I have 40 times the chances of finding the one person. Okay. So it's just the odds. It depends on what the project is. So some projects are very small budget. They're they have the funding, and so it has to be local, and it has to be, but also they don't have a budget. They cannot bring somebody in. They can't fly them in, drive them in, put them up. Okay, so on those projects, they will absolutely cast locally, because and they'll find or not find, but they'll cast locally. When it's a higher profile project, there's no such thing as geography, so they don't really care, where the person is. And we've actually had that problem with some American projects that come and shoot here, where they came in, and the budgets were based on the fact that there would be tax breaks if you hired locally in that. But you can not hire locally. You just have to give up those tax breaks. And I've had producers saying, I'm not going to be told ahead of time where I have to cast from, because I have this project. We're investing millions of dollars, and we have to make sure that everybody, from the casting to all aspects of it, has to be creatively, what our vision is.
Yeah, it has to be right.
Okay?
It has to be right.
It has to be right. So sometimes it's not even just a question of, perhaps we didn't find the right level of actor. It's not even that. It'll just be, if you have, 3 people in that age range to choose from, but not one of them has the right feel for that character.
I say it's an essence, and
It's an essence.
You're great acting, but sometimes you can do a killer self-tape, but there's something that's not jiving, and
exactly,
you don't know what it is, but it's not jiving.
Exactly, and so you want to have the right person in that role, and if the budget permits, then you don't have to restrict yourself, because it's not a geographic thing. So
especially
so that's the
now
thing
with self-tape. So all this to say is, you don't think there's this preconceived idea that we don't have the talent in Montreal. It's just a smaller pool, and not to worry about it. Basically.
Well, yes, that's my opinion, and the people of local people opinion.
Yeah.
Is there that prejudice from people coming in from out of town?
Is there?
Yes, there is. Of course,
Okay.
there is. Of course, there is. Because think about it. Somebody's coming from LA, and it doesn't matter where they're shooting, be it Toronto or Vancouver or Montreal. It's local casting,
right?
And the perception is that their stars are going to come from the main pool, and the main pool is LA, New York. Those are the main pools. Now, there could be a bunch of Canadians working out of there, so they're not thinking of it that way. They're thinking that's where their main pool is, and that's where they're going to get their stars and their supporting roles, and people who have done things that they recognize, and that so anywhere they're shooting is considered local casting, and they're happy to find people there, but they don't expect to find leads or supporting roles, because if you're at that level, they figure you've probably gone to LA already, you know. So yeah, there is that perception from
from out of towners, but as actors who have decided to stay locally, so what would your advice be then?
Well, again, you know, what is it that you want to do? I mean, if your ambition is to, you know, to be a star actor, you know, well, you go where those projects are cast. So it's a known fact how many Canadian actors go to LA for pilot season, for example. So you go there and in hopes of getting cast in a pilot. And then if you do, that's yay. And then from there, hope that that pilot gets picked up. And then if it gets picked up, yay. And then if it gets picked up and they keep you and they don't recast you.
Yay.
But, you know, if your ambition is to be in a primetime American television series, well, you can't, you know, be sitting in Montreal or Toronto or Winnipeg or wherever. You know, you have to go where that action is happening. But again, that being said, if you have proper representation, you know, you get yourself a good agent who is aware of what's going on, and that's where the self-tapes come in, and people get cast or at least get noticed and brought in from self-tapes from wherever they happen to be sitting. So you could be sitting in Montreal and your agent will know that there are these, you know, these pilots and whatever, and submit you and you get chosen. And they're always looking for new faces and new talent. But you have to be ready for, you know, you have to be at that level. Okay. And if that's what you want, then you go after it aggressively. And if you're not getting those auditions, then, you know, do whatever it is you need to do to get those auditions. And then at some point you have to, you know, come to terms with it. If it's not happening, you know, do you try something else? Or, you know, there are no guarantees in this business. And fair, I mean, what's fair? This, you know, you have to be prepared so that when opportunity knocks, you're there. You know, but some of it is luck of the draw. I mean, you can have 3 equally talented, ambitious, you know, actors with all the qualities, and all 3 of them get cast in 3 different pilots, and one pilot becomes a huge success and the other 2, you know, don't get made, or they get made and they're flops, which has nothing to do with them as actors. You know, the project just didn't work. So that element of luck is that the opportunities that you get will move you forward to where you want to be. But that's like with everything in life. I mean, some things are out of your control, but what is within your control is to you know, to be the best, to be on top of your game at all times. And it's a business too, you know, it is a business, and you need to have a good, reputable agent who works for you. But even that is subjective, because, you know, agents by and large are reputable and they know what they're doing, but they're not always a match for everybody. So you have to connect with an agent who you're comfortable with, who's on the same page as you, you know, and take it from there. And you have to also do your share, and your share is provide the materials that needs to be provided. You know, if you have to update your photos, if you have to you know, update your acting reel, and you have to be on top of your game. So if you're not working, when you're not working, that's where you need to be honing your craft by taking workshops, or even just, you know, getting together with other actor friends and do scenes, or, you know, do a play, do something. You need to keep working at it all the time. You could be the best actor in your acting workshop. You could be the best actor in your graduating class. You could be the best actor on your agent's roster. But when you get to that room, it's the best that were sent, and you
Right.
have to compete with the best now. So the game is higher. It may be easy to beat the other, your other classmates because you're that much better, and maybe you are, but now you have to beat out the ones who are as good as you are and better.
Yeah.
So you have to up your ante. So it's constant work.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the decision-making process? Because I feel like there's, maybe newer actors or some talent that just don't know where the job begins and ends with the casting director, and that it actually isn't us.
Well, I get a script, I look at the roles, I take out 3 pictures for each role, and I say, these are the 3 choices for each role, but this is the one you're casting, and it's done.
Beautiful.
How easy is that? I love that.
No,
Here's the 3 headshots,
it's always a collaboration. Because it's a living, breathing form, art form. So it is a collaboration. And the reason casting director is brought in, it's for our knowledge of who's out there, and also for our input. But it's not, my exclusive decision.
Yeah.
But my opinion and my thoughts are solicited and appreciated and wanted
and respected.
So because if it was just a question of you could hire an assistant to just the production can hire a coordinator to just call all the agents and get in every audition from everybody, and then they can look at all of them and choose. So the reason they don't do that is because it's a lot of waste of time.
Yeah.
So there's the casting director who there has to be a conversation with the director and the producers to know what the vision is, and be aware of the script and where they're going and what they're trying to do with it, and then from that bring in the people. So it's not just a question of this character is male, 35 to 45 and a lawyer. And you say, well, why are you bringing these 2 people in and not this other one? Because there's something specific we're looking for in the overall, that's not just a generic male 35 to 45 lawyer. Sometimes we want generic because you're saying, this is the screen, it's a canvas. Okay, so you have to have the ones that pop out, and you have to have the ones that blend in. So there are areas where you don't want a character to pop out conspicuously because that is not the purpose of that character. So with all of that in mind, yes, sometimes you just want somebody that's very generic looking for that, and then sometimes you don't want that, and then sometimes you, as a casting director, I would suggest, it's written like this, but this might be interesting, or I know this actor who's really interesting and blah blah blah, and doesn't fit the description but would be interesting. So all that is collaboration, and ultimately the decision, it's not unilateral. Of course a director has the final say, and when it's a television series, the producer actually has an even stronger say than the director, because a television series is a producer's medium, a feature film is the director's medium, you know.
Mhm.
And so that's what it is. It's a collaboration. Now, it can come down to certain parts where it's happened where a director might say, you know, just you decide who, or, you know, I've seen these people, with just whoever you want out of these people is fine with me, you know.
Mhm.
So, but that has come with, you know, a lot of conversation and a lot of, you know, knowing rapport and knowing and having shown people, and yeah, so in a nutshell, it is a collaborative effort. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Rosina. That was
Yes,
amazing.
this
We're
was
really
great.
happy. Yeah, this was great. This was a lot of information that we're going to be able to share with
My
everybody.
pleasure.
And I learned a lot too, which is always a bonus for me. So
We
excellent.
always
Thank
learn,
you.
right? We
Yeah.
always learn.
Yeah.
No matter where we're at, there's always something to learn.
Exactly.
So for today's takeaways, 1, competition is good. 2, every audition is an opportunity. 3, don't get distracted by the details. 4, make strong choices and demand attention. And 5, don't forget, it is a business. Yay!
Yay. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.